Hello everyone, it's your girl Asia from the Rants channel. Welcome back to my channel. Now, you already know that I told you I was coming out with more Degrassi topics. Like I said, I did want to make a video on Degrassi storylines or ask for topics that they could have done more with. And we're going to also go on a little side rant as well. I'm not going to be a long side rant, just something I want to mention from season 11 and season 12. I just want to talk about the premieres, that's it. And then you already know that I'm still want to talk about the Legend of Korra. Like I said, I just finished the entire show yesterday. I finished season 4, so now I really want to sit down and actually talk about the show. Just talk about what I like. I really don't really have too much from Legend of Korra that I really didn't like, other than what I didn't like, that what they didn't do with a certain character in season 4. That's about it. We're going to get into all of that when I make that video tomorrow. But as for right now, let's talk about some of the topics I wish Degrassi would have done more with. I think, now I'm not going to say with the storylines or the topics that Degrassi did do, that they didn't do them exceptionally well, because they did. I feel like when it came to storylines, especially when it came to targeting the teenage audience and just showing the struggles that teenagers do go through, because we live in a society today where adults or a parent might not think a teenager is under stress, or they just don't think we really go through too much of anything because we're kids. Life hasn't really necessarily hit us exactly. We still have so much more we could be doing before we actually get to that stress level. I've always said this when I was a teenager. It's been a long time since our parents have been in school, so whatever it was like when they were in school, it was completely different when we started going to school. You feel me? The work got harder compared to what it might have been like back in the day. You feel me? So I feel like in Degrassi, the storylines when it came to people being perfectionists, when it came to wannabe having good grades, or having that perfect parent who just wants you to be perfect at every subject, or whether it was trying to figure out your sexual identity, or talking about date rape, whatever it was, whatever storyline it was that Degrassi did at the time, they did it excellent well. But at the same time, there are some storylines I definitely wish they would have done more. I understand Degrassi had a time limit because these children were children playing teenagers, so of course they were only able to do a 21-minute runtime per episode or a 22-minute runtime. They were only able to do what they were given, but I feel like, here's my opinion on a Degrassi reboot being made in today. I feel like I'm against a Degrassi reboot just because I feel like today, when it comes to teenagers or when it comes to teen drama, I feel like today people who make TV shows don't address anything on how hard it is to play a teenager. And not only that, they're getting adults to play teenagers when it's been decades since they've been a teenager, to where when you have an adult playing a teen, I think the producers or the creator or the director think it's okay to sexualize these grown women and grown men because these are, adults playing these teenagers, not children. But it's at the same time, if they're supposed to be a teenager or if they're supposed to be a kid on my screen, why should I be okay with them being sexualized? Why is it okay for them to be extremely naked and nude hour by hour? To me, it just don't make sense. So I feel like I have a really big gripe, I guess you could say. I'm really happy that they didn't bring Degrassi back for a reboot, because I feel like, they're going to put it on HBO Max since Degrassi's entire show is on HBO. I would have been really against it being on HBO, considering shows that's on HBO like Euphoria and all of that isn't really all that good for real, because Euphoria doesn't address anything on how hard it is to be a teenager. They just sexualize everything and romanticize everything. And I feel like if you were going to bring Degrassi back and you were not going to touch on those heavy topics that the Degrassi that we all grew up watching, what's the point of bringing it back? If you were to bring it back, you'll just be monitoring it to today's audience too. For today's kids growing up in this world, thinking everything should be romanticized, everything. So I'm not mad that they didn't bring Degrassi back. But I think I would have been excited if they did, just to see what they would have done differently compared to what it was like when we grew up watching it. I just feel like had they brought Degrassi back, I don't think it would have addressed any heavy topic of what's it like to be a teenager, because the world today, they just don't capitalize the hardships of a teen. Like I said, everything is romanticized or everything is sexualized, and it's just, I feel like, what is a kid who is struggling and really needs a message, what do they get out of that if everything is romanticized and everything is sexual? What do they get out of that? Absolutely nothing. So I'm against the Degrassi reboot because I feel like there would be no good representation of it. But I think the only reason why I feel like I would be okay with it, because I feel like it would have a longer run time. Like if Degrassi was made today, I think a 45 episode runtime would be great because it can expand more stories, more characters to get developed compared to what it was like with the Degrassi group we grew up with. Because I would say Degrassi had, like, you know, when it came to the newer generation, they were doing like 45 episodes, and you know they were like casting new characters. So I feel like if you're casting new characters, why not develop them more? What's the point of casting new characters if they're only going to be in one season and then disappear and go into the black hole? There's no point in them being on this show. And what's the point of doing a 45, what's the point of doing 45, not 45, what's the point of doing 35 or 33 episodes if only the same characters get storylines and get developed? Don't get me wrong, the characters they would pick were their most interesting characters. Those were the characters who had the storyline. I couldn't understand, but what about a character who's kind of in the background and don't get much? What if the audience wanted to see more of them? You feel me? So I feel like I would have been okay with a Degrassi reboot had they done that. But that's what I mean when I say Degrassi could have done more storylines and topics. You feel me? If I had to name something that I wish Degrassi would have done more, I feel like number one, it really should be no question, it should be a pregnancy. I definitely feel like Degrassi really fumbled when it came to pregnancy storylines. I feel like they didn't want a teenager girl or a teenager boy to actually be on the screen being teenage parents. I mean, yeah, they had Mia, but you know, I never really cared for her character, for real. I never really cared for her character, honestly. And then, you know, Casey and Jenna, I really felt like they had the opportunity. But, you know, even though Casey and Jenna didn't keep their kid, Jenna and Casey's whole pregnancy storyline, and then, you know, her finally having a child and everything like that and giving it up for adoption, all of that was interesting as fuck. That is definitely one of the best storylines to ever be written in Degrassi history. I don't give a fuck what nobody says. They may not be characters you care too much for after, but you cannot say in season 11 that they didn't shine that season. Season 11 and 10. 10 and 11, Casey and Jenna, they definitely shined because, you know, people probably thought, you know, after they did what they did with them in season 8 or 9, whatever, that they were just going to be together and probably never get shown again. So I'm actually glad they actually did a whole pregnancy storyline for us to care for the characters, for real. But I feel like, even though Degrassi, you know, written to, and Jenna got pregnant and everything like that, I mean, like, a couple, you know, or a girl actually getting pregnant and keeping the baby, like, being teenage parents, like, trying to balance being teenage parents, like Amy and Ricky shit when Two Life American Teenager. Like, wouldn't it have been interesting to see how they balance school, home life, and how to be teenage parents? That would have been really interesting, you feel me? I don't know if the back feel like they wanted that type of show, or if they feel like, you know, with the runtime that they didn't have this type of time span to write a storyline like that. But I feel like a teenage parent storyline in Degrassi would have been really fantastic. Like I said, seeing a teenage mom and a teenage boy, a teenage mom and a teenage father, like, killing shit as parents, whether in a relationship or not, that would be interesting to me. And I feel like, to me, Dallas was a teenage father, but I think what they should have done, instead of, like, making it something that is from, like, oh, something, he got this girl pregnant when he was living in his old hometown. I feel like, to me, what they should have done is, in season 12, when they introduced Dallas' character, I think he should have been at Degrassi because, you know, he want to be in the hockey team and he want to do hockey. So, of course, he's here for a new opportunity. And I think the girl who showed up in season 12, I think she should have been pregnant. I don't think that they automatically should have just had a kid off the spot. I think she should have been pregnant. I think she should have been pregnant and telling Dallas that she don't think her being pregnant and him being here with a kid on the way is the right mindset to have. And I think they should have did something where she moved down there and went to Degrassi. I feel like I would have been really okay with that storyline, because then it's like, okay, Dallas is about to be a teenage dad. His character would have been way more developed. It would have been way more interesting, because now you get to see him about to kill shit as a teenage dad. You know, like I said, still trying to balance sports, trying to balance school, trying to balance a relationship with Allie. All of that would have been interesting, but I feel like Degrassi just didn't want to do it. Like I said, another topic I wish they would have done more with is a fucking, like, don't you know that Jane says episodes right in season 8, right, where she learned that she was being sexually abused by her father. That's a storyline that I feel like Degrassi really just, you know, really did from the top of their heads in season 8, and it was fantastic. Even though Jane is a character I didn't really care too much for, but her episodes in season 8 are probably the only episodes in that season I can actually enjoy. Those are some of the best part 1 and part 2 episodes ever in Degrassi, no question. They were really good. And I feel like maybe more child sexual abuse or molestation growing up probably would have been a good storyline to do in the show. Like I said, I don't know if they didn't want things to get too dark or they feel like they just wasn't that type of show, but I feel like Jane's episodes kind of opened that door for me. I feel they could have did more alcohol storyline with a kid getting, you know, addicted to alcohol. I feel they could have done more drug abuse storylines. Like I said, and I always say this, I feel like they should have did a drug abuse storyline with Casey. And I say that because, you know, Casey cheated on Jenna. Jenna agreed that, you know, if they get a child up, there's no reason for them to be in a relationship, and there's no reason for her to be living there. And now you got Casey feeling regret because it's like, damn, he kind of drew her away with the cheating. Not helping her at all when the baby was born, you know, just doing what the fuck he wanted to do, operating on his time. And I feel like since his mama was a drug abuser and his daddy was too, and an alcoholic, why not give him that storyline? You feel me? It would have been great, even if he was going to leave in season 12, at least give him something interesting. You feel me? I'm trying to think, what's something else they could. Self-harming. I definitely feel like Degrassi could have done more self-harming storylines. Like I said, I loved Ellie's episode. I loved Ellie's self-harming storyline, but like I said, my biggest issue with it is that they cut it so fucking short. I say this, as much as I love Ellie's self-harming storyline, I think I enjoy Zoe's more based on the fact that it carried on a little bit longer. The only thing I could say I didn't like about Zoe's self-harming storyline was that they've made it like they wanted to put it on the media, social media. And I know in Degrassi Next Class it's more like social media based because, you know, it was made in 2017, so it's like the Instagram and all that shit is definitely more popular. But I feel like, why is it being put on social media that she's hurting herself? Like, she's posted pictures of her burning herself, all types of shit. And Winston and Tristan and Grace, they've all seen this shit and didn't say nothing to an adult. That don't even make sense to me. Even though she was doing it for such a bigger reason, it was still a great storyline to me, honestly. I definitely enjoyed her storyline a lot more than Ellie's, just because they carried it on a little bit longer. Like I said, the only thing I didn't like was that they put it on the internet. I think the biggest topic Degrassi should have done more is sexual diseases storyline. Like, how was it that we never got to see nobody catch no fucking HIV, AIDS, none of that? Like, sex is really a big thing. It's not just like, oh, you do it and nothing happens. After that, you never know who you've been down and dirty with. You don't know their past. You don't know if they've been sexually tested. You don't know what they carrying. You feel me? That's why I say people who want to sleep around, that's the dumbest shit you could ever do, because you can catch anything sleeping around. You catch gonorrhea, you can catch chlamydia, you can catch syphilis, you can catch HIV, you can catch AIDS, you can catch anything by just sleeping around because you think that shit cute. It's not cute sleeping around with just any girl you interact with. It's not cute sleeping with just any guy who says something to you. It's not cute giving any guy oral sex. You can get gonorrhea. You get syphilis from that. I feel like Degrassi definitely could have done more when it came to their STI and STD storylines for real. Like, they could have did something where a kid caught HIV or a kid caught AIDS and they died from it. That would have rocked the show, because now kids know sex is a way bigger deal than the world trying to make it seem like it is. Protection is important, especially if you don't know your partner's history and all that, or you don't know if they ever been sexually tested. Get fucking tested. It's important. Period. Get the fuck tested. If you know you a virgin, or you know you're someone who's only slept with one person your entire life, you don't got shit to worry about. Because why would anybody ever lie about sleeping around? There's no reason to lie. You always think I lie when I say I've only slept with one person my entire life. Sorry, but I'm not a hoe or a slut out here, racking up bodies and trying to count more bodies on my fingers. No, I'm cool with just sleeping with one person my entire life. I want to do everything with just one person. Not two, not three, not four, not five, not six, seven, 8, or 9, or 10. Just one. And I feel like, if you're thinking about having sex with someone, especially if y'all in a newfound relationship, get the fuck tested. Get tested. It's really, really important, because like I said, you don't know what the fuck he or she is carrying. Period. I just think it's really important. So that's what I wanted to talk about when it came to this topic. I think Degrassi definitely could have done more, but there is something I want to mention from season 11 and 12. It's so fucking hot. Okay, so what I want to mention from season 11 and 12 is this. How come nobody ever mentioned how both season 11 and 12 season premiere episodes are underrated as fuck? Like, I really should have mentioned that in the season 11, watching Boom Boom. Hold on, y'all, because I be forgetting the name of these episodes for real. It's not Boom Boom. Dead and Gone. Oh my god. I should have mentioned why I feel like the season 11 premiere is kind of underrated too in the season 11 video. When I said Dead and Gone, it's probably the most underrated mid-season finale ever in Degrassi, because I definitely think it is. I think the Dead and Gone mid-season finale was definitely a great episode for season 11 for it to leave off on, because I feel like the first half was very, very strong. And like I said, I thought the second half was kind of mid for season 11. It was kind of fucking boring for real. Like I said, Nowhere to Run were some really good summer episodes for real. That's how a summer episode is fucking done. Season 14, take some fucking notes, because I don't know what the episodes were in season 14. The Summer Girl episodes, no. If you're going to do a summer episode, it should have been that. Kids going to a cabin, partying, turn the fuck up before they go back to school, or whatever. Not spending the summer trying to be Law and Order, Olivia and Stabler, trying to figure out and trying to crack the case. This is not Law and Order SUV. Why the fuck is we trying to find someone that's missing? The fuck? Why does anybody? Not saying you can't care, but it's like, it's the fact that the show made this girl, who we only saw once, the main star for these episodes. Don't piss me off. Come on. So I feel like Nowhere to Run is how you do a summer special episode if you want to do something with your kids on summer break, for real. But I feel like Boom Boom Pow is definitely an underrated season premiere for season 11, for real. For any Degrassi season, honestly. Because I ranked it high on my list. I feel like season 11 premiere is really great. Everything, like setting up the gang storyline with Drew and Bianca was great. Everything with Vince. Bianca almost got sexually assaulted by her ex-boyfriend. Like, it was all interesting for real. They on spring break. You feel me? So I just feel like it did a really good setup for the whole gang storyline with Drew. And then I definitely feel like season 12, season premiere, is really underrated for real. It has so much drama in it. Like, season 12's premiere was so fucking interesting, honestly. I love that premiere to the fucking... I love that premiere. Only thing I don't care for the premiere in season 12 is the shit with the 9th graders for real. Like I said, the 9th graders, Maya, Zig, Tristan, and Tori, they had some really bad storylines when they first came in. Really, really bad. Like I said, it's like the writers didn't even try to give them anything remotely interesting. And I feel like Maya definitely was the one who was going to shine bright from that group. That's why they were hell-bent on trying to give her something. But I feel like they were just trying to make her all about music. And it's like they wasn't trying to dig deeper when it came to her character. And I feel like if we're going to make her character strictly about music, she don't need to be on the screen 24/7 at all. That's just my opinion. Her character is just about music. She don't need to be on my screen. And there's not going to be anything deeper about her character while she on my screen. You feel me? But I feel like besides the 9th graders, I thought everything with Drew and Katie was great. You know, him telling Katie such and such that, you know, he got with Bianca. When she was on the drugs, he wanted to be with Bianca. You know, Katie and Drew sleeping together. That shit was so fucking crazy. And the controversy with that, everyone thinking that Katie might have taken advantage of Drew, even though I don't feel like it was that. I feel like it was potential. I think the reason why people might think it was because Drew was drunk, and then the next day he said he didn't remember anything. So that might have been the controversy. But I feel like Degrassi, honestly, if Degrassi really wanted to do something where a guy on their show was sexually assaulted, I would have been really all for it, because the world to this day still have a problem with a man being a victim. That's just how I feel. Yeah, these episodes were great. I really can't say nothing bad about the season 12 premiere. I think both season 11 and 12 are both underrated premieres in my opinion, and they definitely need more love and respect. That's just how I feel. But y'all know, that's all I really got to say to this video. I'm going to catch y'all in my next video. Like I said, please be looking out for my core video. I really want to talk about that show. And as always, it's nice talking to y'all. Catch y'all.